The Flight of the Dam Busters Act I. May 1943. The Ruhr Valley, Germany. The industrial heart of the Nazi war machine pulses with production. Steel mills glow red through the night. Munitions factories operate around the clock. Railway yards move endless trains of war material toward the Eastern Front, toward occupied territories, toward the grinding machinery of conquest. And feeding all of this, powering every factory, every forge, every assembly line, are the dams. Massive concrete barriers holding back reservoirs of water, generating hydroelectric power, controlling the lifeblood of German industry. The Möhne Dam, the Eder Dam, the Sorp Dam. 3 massive structures, each one a marvel of engineering, each one critical to German war production. Destroy these dams and you cripple the Ruhr Valley. You flood factories. You cut power to steel mills. You disrupt transportation networks. You strike at the very foundation of Germany's ability to wage war. But how do you destroy a dam? These aren't ordinary targets. They're massive concrete structures hundreds of feet thick at the base, designed to withstand enormous water pressure. Conventional bombs bounce off them harmlessly or explode without causing significant damage. Torpedo attacks are impossible, the dams aren't accessible by water at the right angle. Ground assault is unthinkable, the dams are deep inside German territory, heavily defended, surrounded by flak batteries and fighter bases. For years, British military planners have studied these dams, recognized their strategic importance, and concluded they're effectively invulnerable. You can't destroy what you can't hit. You can't hit what conventional weapons can't damage. The dams stand untouched, protected not by German guns but by the simple physics of concrete and water. Then comes Barnes Wallis. He's not a military man. He's an engineer, an aircraft designer, a scientist who thinks in equations and stress calculations. He's 45 years old in 1942, working for Vickers Armstrong, designing bombers for the RAF. He's already contributed significantly to the war effort. His geodetic airframe design revolutionized aircraft construction. But Wallis isn't satisfied with incremental improvements. He's thinking bigger, more radical, more ambitious. He's thinking about dams. Wallis has become obsessed with the problem of destroying hardened targets. Submarine pens with reinforced concrete roofs. Underground factories carved into mountains. And dams, especially dams. He studies the physics of explosions, reads engineering papers, conducts calculations late into the night at his home. His wife watches him fill notebooks with diagrams and formulas, worried about his health, his obsession, his disregard for sleep and food. The problem, Wallis realizes, isn't the explosive power. The RAF has plenty of powerful bombs. The problem is placement. To destroy a dam, you need to detonate explosives directly against the dam wall, underwater, where the water pressure magnifies the explosive force and creates a shockwave that can crack even massive concrete structures. But how do you place a bomb underwater against a dam wall, with precision? Wallis has an idea. A crazy idea. A brilliant idea. A bomb that bounces. The concept is elegantly simple. Drop a cylindrical bomb from an aircraft flying low and fast over water. Give the bomb backspin before release like a cricket ball. The bomb hits the water, bounces like a stone skipping across a pond, bounces again, bounces multiple times, each bounce carrying it closer to the dam. When it reaches the dam wall, it's lost forward momentum but still spinning. It sinks down the face of the dam, still spinning, until it reaches the optimal depth. Then it explodes. The backspin is critical. It keeps the bomb stable during flight, controls the bounce trajectory, and makes the bomb cling to the dam wall as it sinks instead of floating away. The low-altitude release is essential. The bomb needs to hit water at the correct angle and speed. Everything must be precisely calculated: the aircraft altitude, the speed, the distance from the dam, the bomb's rotation rate, the delayed fuse timing. It's brilliant in theory. Whether it works in practice is another question entirely. Wallis builds models. He tests them in his garden pond, dropping spheres with backspin, watching them skip across the water. His neighbors think he's gone mad, this middle-aged engineer playing with toys in his pond at midnight. But the models work. The spheres bounce predictably, controllably. The concept has merit. He takes his idea to the Ministry of Aircraft Production. He presents calculations, diagrams, test results. He argues that his bouncing bomb could destroy the Ruhr dams, cripple German industry, shorten the war. The officials are skeptical. Bouncing bombs? It sounds like fantasy, like science fiction, like the desperate imagination of an engineer who's been working too hard. They thank Wallis politely and file his proposal away. Wallis doesn't give up. He's convinced he's right, convinced the idea works, convinced this could change the course of the war. He appeals to higher authorities, pulls strings, uses every professional connection he has. He needs support, funding, authorization to build full-scale prototypes and conduct proper tests. Finally, he reaches someone who listens. Air Chief Marshal Sir Charles Portal, Chief of the Air Staff, agrees to review Wallis's proposal personally. Portal is a strategic thinker, open to unconventional ideas, willing to consider radical approaches if they offer genuine military advantage. He reads Wallis's papers, studies the calculations, asks pointed technical questions. Portal is impressed. The concept is unusual, but the engineering is sound. The strategic value is enormous if it works. He authorizes further development, provides funding, directs the RAF to cooperate with testing. Wallis has his chance. Early 1943. Wallis and his team at Vickers begin building full-scale prototypes. The bombs are massive, cylindrical devices weighing nearly 10,000 pounds, filled with high explosives, designed to spin backward at 500 revolutions per minute before release. Specialized equipment must be designed to hold the bombs, spin them up to speed, and release them at precisely the right moment. Testing begins at Chesil Beach on the English coast. The RAF provides a modified Wellington bomber to carry test bombs. Wallis and his team conduct dozens of drops, experimenting with different altitudes, speeds, release points. Many tests fail. Bombs hit the water wrong and shatter. Bombs skip erratically off course. Bombs sink before reaching target distance. Each failure provides data, informs adjustments, brings them closer to success. The breakthrough comes in December 1942. A test bomb performs perfectly. It skips across the water in controlled bounces, maintains trajectory, travels the required distance. Wallis's concept works. The bouncing bomb is real. Now comes the harder part. Building operational bombs. Training crews. Planning the actual raid. The target date is set for May 1943, when water levels in the dam reservoirs will be at maximum capacity, when breaching the dams will cause maximum flooding and damage. That gives them 5 months to prepare. The RAF forms a special squadron specifically for this mission. Number 617 Squadron, formed in March 1943 at RAF Scampton in Lincolnshire. They need the best crews, the most experienced pilots, men who can fly low-altitude night missions with precision under fire. The squadron commander will be Wing Commander Guy Gibson, 24 years old, already a decorated veteran with 170 combat missions completed. Guy Gibson. Remember this name. He's not the oldest pilot in the RAF, not the highest ranking, not the most naturally gifted. But he's dedicated, disciplined, aggressive in combat, respected by his men. He's flown bombers over Germany, attacked submarine pens, survived flak in fighters and mechanical failures. He's exhausted, burned out, due for rest leave. But when asked to command this special squadron for a secret mission, he accepts immediately. Gibson doesn't know the target yet. Nobody does except a handful of senior officers. He's told only that the mission is critical, dangerous, and will require extensive specialized training. He's given authority to handpick his crews, selecting men from across Bomber Command based on experience and skill. He chooses carefully, looking for pilots who can fly steady under pressure, navigators who can find targets at night, bomb aimers with proven accuracy, gunners who stay calm under fire. The squadron assembles at Scampton. 21 crews, 147 men total. They're curious, excited, nervous. They know they've been selected for something special but have no idea what. The secrecy is absolute, necessary, frustrating. They begin training immediately, flying practice missions at low altitude over English lakes and reservoirs. The training is unusual, specific, intense. They practice flying at exactly 60 feet above water, maintaining that altitude precisely using spotlights mounted under their aircraft that converge on the water surface at exactly 60 feet. They practice flying at exactly 240 miles per hour, the precise speed required for bomb release. They practice flying in formation at night, following their leader, maintaining position despite darkness and turbulence. They practice these same maneuvers hundreds of times. Low altitude. Correct speed. Steady flight. The pilots grow frustrated. Why this specific altitude? Why this specific speed? What's the target? When will they be told? Gibson provides no answers, just demands more practice, more precision, more repetition until every crew can hit the exact parameters blindfolded. Meanwhile, Wallis and his team are manufacturing the operational bombs. Each one is custom-built, precisely balanced, tested for structural integrity. The bombs are so large, so heavy, that the Lancaster bombers must be specially modified to carry them. The bomb bay doors are removed. Special mounting brackets are installed. Motors and belts are fitted to spin the bombs before release. Security around the operation is extraordinary. The bombs are codenamed Upkeep. The mission itself is codenamed Operation Chastise. Everyone involved signs the Official Secrets Act, is warned that unauthorized disclosure means prison or worse. Guards patrol the facilities. Unauthorized personnel are kept away from the modified aircraft and the strange cylindrical bombs. April 1943. With 6 weeks until the scheduled raid, Gibson and his squadron commanders are finally briefed on the target. The Ruhr Dams. Mohn Eder, Sorp. They'll attack at night, flying at treetop level to avoid radar detection. Release Wallis's bouncing bombs at exactly 60 feet altitude and exactly 240 miles per hour speed. Each dam is defended by flak guns, searchlights, barrage balloons. The approach is treacherous, narrow valleys with steep sides, power lines crossing the reservoirs, fog and mist reducing visibility. The crews are told about the bombs, shown how they work, briefed on the physics of the skip bombing technique. They watch test footage of bombs bouncing across water, sinking against dam walls, exploding underwater. They're impressed, skeptical, terrified, excited. This is unlike any bombing mission ever attempted. The altitude is insanely low, the approach dangerous, the defense is formidable. And they're not dropping dozens of bombs hoping some hit. Each aircraft carries only one bomb. One chance. One approach. Hit or miss, then fly home through alerted German defenses. Training intensifies. Now they know what they're training for, the exercises make sense. They practice approaches on British dams, flying through valleys at night, simulating bomb runs, timing their releases. They practice emergency procedures for damaged aircraft, for wounded crew, for system failures. They study maps of the Ruhr Valley, memorize landmarks, plan navigation routes that minimize exposure to known flak positions. Barnes Wallis visits the squadron. He watches the crews train, answers their technical questions, explains the bomb design and operation. The crews like him immediately. He's not a pompous scientist lecturing them. He's a man who clearly cares deeply about their mission and their survival. He's risking his professional reputation on this weapon. If it fails, if the mission fails, he'll be blamed. But he believes in the concept, believes in them, believes they can accomplish something extraordinary. May 15, 1943. Final briefing. The raid is scheduled for the night of May 16 to 17. Weather forecasts are good, clear skies over Germany, moon nearly full providing visibility. Water levels in the dams are at peak capacity. Conditions are optimal. This is it. Gibson addresses the squadron. 133 men, 19 crews selected for the mission. 2 crews are held in reserve. The men are young, most in their early 20s, some teenagers. They're volunteers all recruited into the RAF from across Britain and the Commonwealth. English, Scottish, Welsh, Canadian, Australian, New Zealand. Boys from farms and cities, from wealthy families and working-class backgrounds, united by youth and courage and the naive belief that they're immortal. Gibson doesn't give them speeches about glory or patriotism. He's not that kind of commander. He tells them the mission is critical, the defenses are heavy, some of them won't come back. He tells them they're the best bomber crews in the RAF, that he's proud to lead them, that if anyone can do this, they can. He tells them to follow orders, maintain formation, support each other. Then he dismisses them to prepare their aircraft and equipment. The afternoon passes slowly. Crews check and recheck their aircraft. Mechanics make final adjustments. Armorers load the upkeep bombs carefully, mount them in the modified bomb bays, connect the spinning motors and release mechanisms. Each bomb weighs 9,250 pounds, packed with 6,600 pounds of Torpex explosive. Each bomb costs thousands of pounds to manufacture. Each bomb represents months of engineering work, calculation, testing. Each bomb is unique, irreplaceable, critical. The aircrews eat an early dinner, heavy meal of steak and eggs, the traditional pre-mission meal for bomber crews. They joke, laugh, tell stories, maintain the illusion of casual confidence. Inside they're terrified. Low-altitude night flying over enemy territory, attacking heavily defended targets with an experimental weapon. This is suicide mission disguised as strategy. But nobody says this aloud. Nobody admits fear. That's not how it works. Evening arrives. The sun sets over Scampton. The Lancasters are lined up on the runway, 19 heavy bombers, black against the darkening sky. Ground crews make final preparations, fueling, checking, blessing these machines with technical competence and desperate hope. Barnes Wallis walks among the aircraft, touching each bomb, perhaps praying, perhaps simply acknowledging the culmination of years of work. Gibson's crew boards their Lancaster AJG for George. Gibson takes the pilot's seat, his flight engineer settles beside him. Navigator, wireless operator, bomb aimer, 2 gunners, they take their positions in the cramped fuselage. This is their office, their weapon, their coffin if things go wrong. The Lancaster is a beautiful aircraft, powerful, reliable, capable. But it's still just aluminum and rivets and engines, fragile against German flak, vulnerable to fighter attack, dependent entirely on the skill and luck of its crew. Engines start. One by one, the Lancasters roar to life, 4 Merlin engines per aircraft, the sound building into a thunderous chorus. Gibson receives final clearance from the control tower. He releases brakes, begins his takeoff roll. The heavily laden Lancaster accelerates slowly, burdened by the massive upkeep bomb and full fuel tanks. The runway passes beneath them, faster, faster, airspeed building. Gibson pulls back on the controls. The Lancaster lifts off, climbs heavily into the darkening sky. Behind him, 18 more Lancasters follow, taking off at intervals, forming into 3 waves. The first wave, led by Gibson, will attack the Moan Dam, then proceed to the Eder if bombs remain. The second wave will attack the Sorp Dam from a different approach. The third wave is mobile reserve, directed to attack secondary targets based on the success or failure of the first 2 waves. The formation turns southeast, heading toward the English coast, toward the North Sea, toward Germany. Behind them, England disappears into dusk. Ahead, darkness and danger and the most unusual bombing mission of the entire war. They're committed now, past the point of return. The mission has begun. The flight across the North Sea is tense, quiet, routine. The crews maintain radio silence, navigation by dead reckoning and visible landmarks. The moon rises, nearly full, casting silver light across the water below. Beautiful and terrible, that moonlight. It helps them navigate, helps them see. But it also makes them visible to German night fighters, to flak gunners, to anyone looking up. They cross the Dutch coast at low altitude, skimming over beaches and sand dunes, dropping even lower once over land. Now they're in enemy territory, hostile airspace, where everything wants to kill them. German radar stations track aircraft, but flying this low, below 50 feet in places, they're under the radar coverage, invisible to early warning systems. But they're not invisible to eyes, to observers on the ground who can hear the roar of Merlin engines and look up to see black shapes passing overhead. Flak opens up sporadically. Tracer fire arcs into the sky, bright lines searching for aircraft. The gunners are firing blind, hearing engines but not seeing targets clearly. Most shots miss. Some come terrifyingly close. The Lancaster formations split, individual aircraft following separate navigation routes toward their targets, spreading out to minimize the chance of multiple losses to single flak positions. Gibson's aircraft crosses into Germany. The landscape below transforms into industrial areas, towns, rivers, railways. The navigator calls out landmarks, confirms their position, provides course corrections. They're on track, on schedule, approaching the Moan Dam from the planned direction. Gibson descends even lower, flying at treetop level through narrow valleys, following the planned approach route. The Moan Reservoir appears ahead, a vast body of water gleaming in moonlight, surrounded by forested hills. And beyond the water, the dam itself, a massive concrete wall stretching across the valley, holding back millions of tons of water. Even from a distance, it's impressive, intimidating, seemingly indestructible. Gibson circles at safe distance, observing, planning his attack run. He can see the flak positions now, gun emplacements on the dam towers, searchlights beginning to sweep the sky. The Germans know something's happening, aircraft circling their strategic dam. This isn't reconnaissance or accident. Alert signals are being sent, gun crews are manning positions, defenders are preparing. The other aircraft from the first wave arrive, taking up positions, waiting for Gibson's signal. This is it, the moment years of planning and preparation have built toward. Gibson lines up for his approach, descends to exactly 60 feet above the water, accelerates to exactly 240 miles per hour. His flight engineer monitors the spotlight altimeters, confirms they're at correct height. His bomb aimer lies prone in the nose. I press to the bomb sight, watching the dam wall approach. The flak opens up. Not searching fire now but aimed, directed, concentrated. Tracer streams toward them, shells exploding in the air around them. The Lancaster shudders, hit by fragments, but keeps flying. Gibson holds steady, holds course, ignores the fire, trusts his aircraft and crew. The bomb aimer counts down, distance to target, closer, closer. The dam wall fills their vision, massive concrete barrier, seeming impossibly large, impossible to miss, impossible to damage. Bomb gone. The upkeep weapon releases, drops toward the water, spinning backward at 500 revolutions per minute. The Lancaster lurches upward, suddenly lighter, climbing away from the dam. Behind them, the bomb hits water, bounces once, twice, 3 times, skipping across the reservoir toward the dam wall. It reaches the wall, sinks, disappears below the surface. Seconds pass. Then eruption, massive explosion, water and debris fontaining hundreds of feet into the air, the entire valley illuminated by the blast. Gibson circles, watching, waiting for the spray to clear. Did it work? Did the bomb breach the dam? The water settles. The dam is still standing, still intact. No visible damage, no breach, no collapse. The mission continues. The flight of the Dam Busters Act 2. Gibson pulls his Lancaster around for another pass, but he's not attacking again. His bomb is gone, his role now is different. He becomes the master bomber, the coordinator, directing other aircraft to their attack runs while drawing German fire away from them. This is leadership, this is sacrifice, this is putting himself in maximum danger to give his crews better chances. He calls in the second aircraft. Flight Lieutenant John Hopgood in AJM for Mother. Hopgood begins his approach, descending to 60 feet, accelerating to attack speed. Gibson flies parallel to him, slightly ahead, drawing flak fire toward himself. The German gunners concentrate on Gibson's aircraft, the closer target, the more obvious threat. Tracer fire follows Gibson while Hopgood makes his run. But the Germans aren't stupid, they adjust quickly. Flak shifts toward Hopgood as he approaches the dam. His Lancaster is hit hard, flames erupting from the port wing. The aircraft is dying, falling, but Hopgood holds course, holds steady, gives his bomb aimer those critical extra seconds. Bomb gone. The upkeep releases, drops, but the timing is wrong, the aircraft too damaged, the approach compromised. The bomb bounces, overshoots the dam, explodes against the power station below the dam wall instead of the wall itself. Hopgood's Lancaster climbs away, burning, trailing smoke and flame. He's trying to gain altitude, give his crew a chance to bail out. The rear gunner escapes, parachute opening, drifting down toward German capture. The bomb aimer escapes. But then the Lancaster explodes, disintegrates in midair, falling in pieces into the German countryside below. Hopgood and 4 crew members die instantly. First casualties of the night, but not the last. Gibson calls in the third aircraft. Flight Lieutenant Mick Martin in AJP for Popsy. Martin is Australian, aggressive, fearless, one of the best pilots in the squadron. He makes his approach fast and low, Gibson again flying alongside drawing fire. Martin's Lancaster races toward the dam, flak exploding around it, but he's untouched, lucky, blessed. His bomb releases perfectly, bounces across the water, reaches the dam, sinks, explodes. Another massive eruption of water. Another wait for the spray to clear. The dam is still standing, but now they can see damage, cracks appearing in the concrete, water beginning to seep through weak points. They're hurting it, weakening it, getting closer to breakthrough. Fourth aircraft. Squadron leader Melvin Young in AJA for Apple. Young is Gibson's deputy, reliable, steady, experienced. He makes his run, releases his bomb, the weapon performs perfectly. The explosion adds to the cumulative damage, more cracks, more water leaking through. The dam wall is failing, slowly, progressively, the concrete fracturing under repeated shockwaves. Fifth aircraft. Flight Lieutenant David Maltby in AJJ for Johnny. Maltby lines up, begins his approach. By now the flak gunners are exhausted, ammunition running low, gun barrels overheating. Their fire is less intense, less accurate. Maltby makes a clean run, releases his bomb at the perfect point. The upkeep bounces, sinks, explodes. This time something different happens. The water spray clears and they see it, the thing they've been working toward, the sight that makes everything worthwhile. The dam wall is breaching, crumbling, collapsing. Water forces its way through the cracks, the pressure enormous, irresistible. The breach widens rapidly, chunks of concrete falling away, the entire center section of the dam disintegrating under the force of millions of tons of water seeking escape. The reservoir begins to empty. Water pours through the breach, a massive wall of water cascading down the valley, gathering speed, gathering power, becoming a tsunami of destruction. The Moan Dam is broken, destroyed, breached beyond any possibility of quick repair. Gibson and his remaining aircraft circle overhead, watching the flood spread down the Ruhr Valley. Factories disappear underwater. Railway bridges collapse. Roads wash away. Power stations flood and go dark. Everything downstream from the dam is being destroyed by the very water that was supposed to power German industry. The strategic objective is achieved, the mission is successful. But there's no time for celebration. Gibson has orders, contingency plans, secondary targets. The Eder Dam, another massive barrier, another critical piece of German infrastructure. Gibson takes his remaining aircraft, the ones that haven't yet dropped their bombs, and heads toward the Eder, leaving the Möhne flooding behind them. The flight to the Eder takes 30 minutes, following rivers and valleys, navigating by moonlight and memory. The Eder Dam is different from the Möhne, more isolated, less defended. No flak guns, no searchlights, just the dam itself in a narrow valley surrounded by steep forested hills. But the approach is nightmarish, requiring aircraft to dive down into the valley, level off just above the water, release the bomb, then pull up sharply to avoid crashing into hills on the far side. Flight Lieutenant David Shannon in AJL for Leather makes the first attempt. He dives into the valley, levels off, begins his approach. But the geometry is wrong, the angle too steep, he can't get level in time. He aborts, pulls up, circles around to try again. Second attempt, same problem. The valley is too narrow, the hills too close, the approach too difficult. Third attempt, again he aborts, unable to achieve stable flight at the correct altitude. Gibson is frustrated but patient. This is the reality of low-altitude precision bombing, it requires perfect conditions, perfect execution. Shannon has tried his best, he's not a coward, the approach is simply too difficult in current conditions. Gibson calls in another aircraft. Flight Lieutenant Les Monroe in AJW for William. No, wait, Monroe was hit by flak over the Dutch coast, lost his radio, had to abort and return to base. Gibson's memory corrects itself even as he issues orders. The stress, the intensity, the cognitive load of managing a combat operation while flying his own aircraft, it's enormous. Flight Lieutenant Henry Maudslay in AJZ for Zebra. Maudslay begins his approach, diving into the valley, leveling off above the water. His approach looks good, steady, correct altitude and speed. He releases his bomb, the upkeep drops, bounces, skips toward the dam. Maudslay pulls up hard, climbing away. But something goes wrong, timing is off by seconds, by fractions of a second. The bomb explodes prematurely, still too close to Maudslay's aircraft. The Lancaster is caught in the blast, damaged severely, staggering through the air. Maudslay tries to climb, tries to gain altitude, but the aircraft is too damaged. He radios that he's been hit, that he's trying to make it home, but everyone listening knows he won't make it. Maudslay's Lancaster disappears into the night, flying north toward England, losing altitude gradually, inevitably. He crashes somewhere in Germany, the exact location unknown. The entire crew dies. Another 7 men lost, another aircraft gone, another empty space at tomorrow's breakfast table. Gibson has 2 bombs left, 2 aircraft that haven't yet attacked. He calls in squadron leader Henry Young. No, Young already dropped his bomb at the Möhne, Gibson's exhausted mind is making mistakes. He calls in Flight Lieutenant Les Knight in AJN for Nuts. Knight is calm, precise, methodical. He studies the valley, plans his approach, visualizes the attack run. Then he commits, diving down, leveling off perfectly, holding steady despite the difficult conditions. Knight releases his bomb at the exact correct point. The upkeep bounces beautifully, reaches the dam, sinks, explodes. The blast is massive, the entire valley shaking. When the spray clears, they see the result. The Eder Dam is breaching, the center section crumbling, water pouring through in an unstoppable flood. 2 dams down, 2 strategic targets destroyed, 2 industrial valleys flooding. Gibson makes a command decision. He has 1 bomb remaining, carried by Flight Lieutenant Shannon, who couldn't attack the Eder due to difficult approach conditions. Gibson could send Shannon back to try the Eder again, or redirect him to the Sorp Dam, the 3rd primary target. But radio reports from the 2nd wave indicate they're having difficulties at the Sorp. The dam structure is different, earth and rubble instead of concrete, resistant to the bouncing bomb technique. 1 more bomb at the Sorp probably won't achieve a breach. Gibson decides to call off further attacks. 2 dams destroyed is extraordinary success, beyond what anyone dared hope. Risking more aircraft, more crews for marginal additional damage isn't justified. He orders Shannon to return to base with his bomb, orders all remaining aircraft to break off attack and head home. The return flight is long, dangerous, exhausting. The crews have been flying for hours now, adrenaline wearing off, fatigue setting in. They're still over enemy territory, still vulnerable to flak and fighters. German defenses are fully alerted now, radio traffic buzzing with reports of dam attacks, orders to intercept returning bombers, desperate attempts to understand what just happened. Some aircraft make it home without incident, flying low, navigating carefully, avoiding known flak positions. Others aren't as lucky. Flight Lieutenant Bill Estelle in AJB for Baker hits power lines over Holland, crashes, entire crew killed instantly. Pilot Officer Louis Burpee in AJS for Sugar is hit by flak over Germany, explodes in midair, no survivors. Flight Lieutenant Robert Barlow in AJE for Easy crashes into trees during low-altitude flight, 7 more dead. The losses mount. Young men who were joking over breakfast are dead before midnight. Aircraft that were pristine hours ago are burning wreckage scattered across German countryside. The mission is successful, strategically brilliant, tactically devastating. But the cost is terrible, the price paid in blood and youth and shattered families back in England who don't yet know they're receiving telegrams tomorrow. Gibson crosses the English coast at dawn, exhausted, traumatized, victorious, guilty. He's led his squadron to incredible success and terrible loss. 8 aircraft missing out of 1953 crew members dead or captured, more than 1/3 of the force destroyed. The survivors are the lucky ones, the skilled ones, the blessed ones. But they don't feel lucky, they feel hollow, numb, aware that friends won't be returning, that empty bunks will remind them daily of the cost. Gibson lands at Scampton as the sun rises. Ground crews rush to his aircraft, seeing the damage, the flak holes, the evidence of combat. Gibson climbs out stiffly, his crew following, all of them moving like old men despite their youth. Barnes Wallis is waiting, anxious, desperate for news. Did it work? Did the bombs perform? Did the dams break? Gibson confirms the success. Moan breached. Eder breached. Wallis weeps, overcome with emotion, relief, joy, and horror at the cost. His weapon worked, his concept proved valid, but 53 men died testing it. That knowledge will haunt him for the rest of his life, the awareness that his engineering genius came at the price of young lives. The other surviving aircraft land throughout the morning. Each landing is relief, each crew that returns is miracle, each empty sky where an aircraft should appear is grief. The squadron gathers for debriefing, exhausted men recounting their experiences, intelligence officers recording every detail, trying to construct accurate picture of what happened. The photographic evidence comes back, aerial reconnaissance aircraft flying over the Ruhr Valley at first light. The images are stunning, apocalyptic, almost unbelievable. The Moan Reservoir is empty, just mud and debris where millions of tons of water used to be. The Eder Reservoir is similarly drained, the valley below transformed into disaster zone. Factories are flooded, bridges destroyed, railways washed away, power stations underwater. The damage is catastrophic, exactly what the mission intended, exactly what Wallis predicted. German response is chaos. They evacuate downstream areas, rescue trapped civilians, assess the destruction, begin planning repairs. But the dams can't be quickly fixed, the breaches are too large, the damage too extensive. It will take months, perhaps years, to rebuild these massive structures. And in the meantime, German industry in the Ruhr Valley operates at reduced capacity, power shortages affecting production, water shortages disrupting manufacturing, transportation networks severed by destroyed bridges and flooded railways. The strategic impact is significant but not war-ending. Germany is resilient, adaptable, capable of working around infrastructure damage. They redirect resources, improvise solutions, gradually restore production. The economic disruption is real but not fatal, important but not decisive. The mission succeeded brilliantly in its immediate objective but didn't single-handedly cripple German war machine as some optimists hoped. But the psychological impact is enormous. The raid demonstrates that nowhere in Germany is safe, that British innovation can overcome seemingly invulnerable defenses, that German industrial infrastructure is vulnerable despite heavy protection. It's a propaganda victory for Britain, a morale boost for the British people who've endured years of bombing themselves, proof that RAF Bomber Command can strike back, can hurt Germany, can achieve spectacular tactical successes. For the crews of 617 Squadron, the mission becomes legend almost immediately. They're heroes, celebrated in newspapers, praised by Churchill, decorated with medals. Gibson receives the Victoria Cross, Britain's highest award for valor. Other crew members receive Distinguished Service Orders, Distinguished Flying Crosses, recognition for extraordinary courage under fire. But the celebrations feel hollow to the survivors. They remember the friends who didn't come back, the crews who died executing the mission, the terrible cost of success. They attend memorial services, write letters to families of dead comrades, try to process trauma that won't fully manifest for years. They're heroes to the public but damaged men to themselves, carrying scars that medals can't heal. Gibson himself is pulled from combat operations, considered too valuable to risk, his experience and reputation needed for publicity and training rather than continued combat. He chafes at this, feels guilty about surviving while his men died, wants to keep fighting, keep leading, keep proving himself. But the RAF has other plans. They need him alive, need him visible, need him as symbol of British courage and skill. The remaining members of 617 Squadron continue operations, conducting other precision raids, attacking other strategic targets. They become specialists in difficult missions, the squadron called when conventional approaches won't work, when precision and skill are more important than numbers. They develop reputation as the elite, the best, the dam busters who prove that determination and innovation can accomplish impossible things. Barnes Wallis continues his engineering work, designing new weapons, new bombs, new solutions to military problems. But he never forgets the cost, the men who died testing his invention, the weight of responsibility for sending young men into mortal danger with experimental weapons. He visits the squadron regularly, maintains contact with survivors, attends their reunions, carries his guilt and grief alongside his professional accomplishments. The Möhne and Eder dams are eventually repaired by German engineers, massive reconstruction projects requiring thousands of workers and enormous resources. The dams are rebuilt stronger than before, more heavily defended, prepared against future attacks. But they're never attacked again. The technique that worked once won't work twice, the element of surprise is gone, the defenses are adapted. History remembers Operation Chastise as one of the most daring raids of World War II, a perfect combination of engineering genius, pilot skill, and operational courage. The mission accomplished its immediate objective, demonstrated British capability, provided dramatic propaganda victory. But it also revealed the terrible arithmetic of strategic bombing, the reality that even successful missions exact brutal costs, that victory is measured not just in destroyed targets but in young lives spent achieving those destructions. 53 men died that night. 53 young men, volunteers, patriots, brave beyond measure. They flew into darkness knowing the dangers, accepting the risks, trusting their training and their aircraft and their leaders. Some died instantly, their aircraft exploding in midair, no time for fear or regret. Others died slowly, trapped in burning wreckage, aware of their fate, alone in enemy territory. All of them died serving their country, executing orders, attempting to shorten the war and save future lives through their sacrifice. Their names are recorded on memorials, their stories preserved in histories, their sacrifice honored by the nation they served. But they remain dead, forever young, frozen at the age they died, never experiencing the peace their actions helped secure, never knowing the world their sacrifice helped create. The dams were breached, the mission succeeded, the legend was born. But legends are built on graves and glory is purchased with blood. This is the truth of the Dam Busters raid, the reality behind the heroic story. Extraordinary achievement, brilliant execution, terrible cost. All of it true, all of it real, all of it worth remembering exactly as it happened. The Flight of the Dam Busters Act 3. June 1943. The aftermath settles like dust after an explosion. The Ruhr Valley slowly drains, pumps working day and night to clear flooded factories and submerged infrastructure. German engineers survey the breached dams, calculate repair timelines, requisition materials and labor. The immediate crisis passes, but the scars remain, visible from reconnaissance aircraft that photograph the empty reservoirs and destroyed valley floors. At RAF Scampton, 617 Squadron tries to return to normal operations, but normal no longer exists. 8 empty beds in the barracks. 8 empty chairs in the briefing room. 8 crews worth of personal effects packed into boxes, awaiting shipment to families who still can't comprehend that their sons, their husbands, their brothers aren't coming home. The survivors move through these spaces carefully, avoiding the gaps, the absences, the silence where laughter used to be. The decoration ceremony happens quickly, almost too quickly. King George VI visits Scampton personally to present medals. Gibson receives his Victoria Cross, the highest honor Britain can bestow, pinned to his uniform by the King himself. 33 other crew members receive Distinguished Service Orders, Distinguished Flying Crosses, Distinguished Flying Medals. The King shakes hands, offers congratulations, speaks briefly with each recipient. The ceremony is formal, dignified, proper. But it feels inadequate, insufficient recognition for what these men endured, what they accomplished, what they lost. Gibson stands at attention during the ceremony, medal on his chest, cameras flashing, journalists recording every moment. He looks like the perfect hero, young and handsome and brave, the embodiment of British martial virtue. Inside he's collapsing, fragmenting, barely holding together. He sees the faces of dead friends everywhere, hears their voices in quiet moments, wakes from nightmares of burning aircraft and drowning men. The metal feels heavy, not with gold but with responsibility, with guilt, with the knowledge that he lived while others died. The media wants interviews, appearances, public statements. Gibson becomes a celebrity, his face in newspapers across Britain and the Commonwealth. The story of the dam raid is told and retold, simplified, dramatized, transformed into legend. The bouncing bombs, the daring low-level attack, the spectacular destruction of the dams, it's perfect propaganda, exactly what British morale needs at this point in the war. The public embraces the story eagerly, hungry for heroic narratives, for proof that Britain can still strike devastating blows against Germany. But the real story, the complete story, is more complicated than the propaganda version. Yes, the dams were breached. Yes, significant damage was inflicted on German industry. But the strategic impact is less than hoped. German production recovers within months, alternative power sources are found, water supplies are redirected. The raid was spectacular but not decisive, impressive but not war-winning. And the cost, the terrible cost in lives and aircraft, that part gets minimized in public accounts. 53 dead is mentioned but not dwelled upon, presented as unfortunate but necessary sacrifice, acceptable losses in pursuit of strategic objectives. The families of the dead know differently, they know their losses aren't acceptable at all, but what choice do they have except to mourn privately, to take pride in sons who died heroically even while grief tears them apart. Barnes Wallis struggles with his own demons. His bouncing bomb worked, his concept proved valid, his engineering genius contributed significantly to the war effort. He should feel satisfied, proud, vindicated. Instead, he feels responsible, guilty, haunted by the knowledge that his invention killed 53 young men. He attends memorial services, visits families of the dead, tries to explain that their sons died testing something revolutionary, something that saved other lives, something that shortened the war. The families are gracious, understanding, but Wallis can see their pain, their loss, and his explanations feel hollow. He throws himself into new projects, designing larger bombs, more destructive weapons, anything to justify the sacrifice, to make the deaths meaningful through continued contribution to victory. He designs the Tallboy bomb, a massive 12,000-pound penetrating weapon. Then the Grand Slam, 22,000 pounds, the largest conventional bomb of the war. These weapons destroy hardened targets, submarine pens, railway viaducts, V-weapon sites. They save Allied lives by eliminating German military capability. But they also represent escalation, greater destruction, more efficient killing. Wallis the humanitarian engineer becomes Wallis the weapons designer, and the transformation troubles him even as he recognizes its necessity. 617 Squadron continues operations, their reputation established, their specialty defined. They're the precision squadron, the difficult target squadron, the unit called when standard bombing won't work. They attack the Dortmund EMS Canal with Wallis's new weapons, disrupting German transportation networks. They sink the German battleship Tirpitz in Norwegian fjords, eliminating a major naval threat. They destroy V-2 rocket sites in France, reducing German ability to bombard British cities with ballistic missiles. Each mission is dangerous, costly, traumatic. More crews die, more aircraft are lost, more empty spaces appear in the squadron roster. But they keep flying, keep fighting because that's what they do, that's what they signed up for, that's what duty demands. The survivors become hardened, experienced, skilled beyond measure. They're the veterans now, the old hands teaching new crews, passing on lessons learned in blood and fire. Guy Gibson doesn't fly with them. He's grounded, kept safe, assigned to staff positions and publicity duties. He hates it, chafes against the restrictions, argues constantly with superiors for permission to return to combat. He feels useless, guilty, separated from the men he led, watching from distance as they continue fighting without him. The Victoria Cross that was supposed to honor him feels like shackles, marking him as too valuable to risk, too important to spend. He's sent on a publicity tour of North America, giving speeches, attending fundraisers, meeting with government officials. American audiences love him, the handsome young British hero, the daring pilot who breached the dams. He tells the story dozens of times, each telling smoothing away the rough edges, the fear, the death, the trauma, leaving only the heroic narrative that audiences want to hear. He's good at it, charismatic, articulate, effective. But he feels like a fraud, like he's performing someone else's life, Like the real Guy Gibson died over the Ruhr, and this public version is just hollow shell going through motions. He returns to England in late 1943, hoping to resume combat operations. He's assigned to a staff position instead, planning missions for other crews, sending other men into danger while he stays safe behind a desk. The frustration grows unbearable, the guilt intensifies, the need to prove himself, to risk himself, to equalize the moral accounting that has him alive while his men died, it becomes overwhelming. He pulls strings, calls in favors, leverages his reputation and connections. Finally, in September 1944, he convinces superiors to let him fly operationally again. Not with 617 Squadron, they won't allow that, too much risk of losing their legendary commander. But with another squadron, a standard night bombing mission against German targets. He's been grounded for over a year, his skills are rusty, his night vision degraded by age and fatigue. But he insists he's ready, capable, still the pilot he used to be. September 19, 1944. Gibson flies as master bomber on a raid against Raid and Mönchengladbach in Germany. His role is to mark targets, coordinate the attack, ensure bombing accuracy. He's flying a Mosquito, a fast light bomber, unarmed except for the marker flares he carries. The mission proceeds normally, targets are marked, bombers drop their loads, objectives are achieved. Gibson's Mosquito is last to leave the target area, ensuring all bomber aircraft have cleared before departing himself. He's professional, careful, doing his job exactly right. Then something goes wrong, mechanical failure or flak damage or simple bad luck. His aircraft crashes in Holland. No parachutes seen, no survivors found. Guy Gibson, the hero of the Dam Busters raid, the Victoria Cross recipient, the legend, dies in a routine bombing mission 8 months before the war ends. He's 26 years old. The news devastates 617 Squadron, devastates the RAF, devastates Britain. Gibson was supposed to survive, supposed to be the one who made it through, supposed to come home and live the peace he fought to secure. His death feels wrong, unfair, wasteful. He survived the impossible mission only to die in a standard operation, killed by probability and statistics after defying both for so long. Barnes Wallis attends the memorial service, another ceremony for another dead friend, another name added to the too-long list of men who didn't survive to see victory. Wallis is 57 now, looking older, bent under the weight of grief and responsibility. He'll live another 34 years, continuing his engineering work, receiving honors and recognition, achieving professional success beyond most people's dreams. But he'll never forget the cost, never stop mourning the young men who died testing his inventions, never fully reconcile his pride in achievement with his grief over consequences. The war ends 8 months after Gibson dies. Germany surrenders in May 1945, defeated, occupied, divided. The strategic bombing campaign, including the Dam Busters raid, is analyzed and debated by historians and military theorists. Did it shorten the war? Did it save Allied lives by destroying German production capacity? Or did it waste resources on dramatic but strategically limited operations while conventional ground combat did the real work of defeating Germany? The answers are complex, ambiguous, unsatisfying. Yes, the bombing damaged German industry. Yes, it diverted German resources to defense and repair. Yes, it demonstrated Allied capability and demoralized German civilians. But it also cost tens of thousands of Allied aircrew lives, consumed enormous resources, and arguably didn't shorten the war as significantly as pre-war theorists believed it would. Strategic bombing was effective but not decisive, important but not sufficient, necessary but not solely responsible for victory. The Dam Busters raid specifically becomes case study in special operations, in precision bombing, in the marriage of engineering innovation and military execution. It's taught at military academies, analyzed in war colleges, referenced in planning for modern precision strike operations. The lessons are studied carefully, the successes replicated, the failures avoided in future planning. But the human dimension, the 53 dead, the traumatized survivors, the families forever scarred by loss, that part doesn't fit neatly into staff college lectures. Those truths are messier, more painful, harder to incorporate into lessons learned and after-action reports. So they're acknowledged briefly, then set aside, honored but not dwelled upon, remembered but not emphasized. The surviving members of 617 Squadron go home after the war. They return to civilian life, to families, to jobs, to the world they fought to preserve. Some adapt successfully, building careers and families, finding peace despite their trauma. Others struggle, haunted by nightmares, unable to forget what they saw and did, damaged in ways that 1940s medicine doesn't understand or treat effectively. They suffer in silence mostly because that's what men of that generation do. They endure, they cope, they don't complain about psychological wounds invisible to others. They gather for reunions, annual meetings where survivors share memories, toast absent friends, maintain bonds forged in combat. The numbers diminish each year, age and illness claiming veterans that German flak couldn't kill. By the 1990s only a handful remain. By the 2000s they're nearly gone. The last survivor of the Dam Busters raid, Flight Lieutenant Johnny Johnson, dies in 2022 at age 101. With his death, the living connection to that night in May 1943 ends. What remains are records, photographs, histories, memories preserved in books and museums and monuments. The Möhne and Eder dams stand today, rebuilt, modernized, still serving their original purposes of water management and hydroelectric generation. Tourists visit them, take photographs, read plaques explaining the 1943 raid. The Germans have their own perspective on the attack, seeing it as terror bombing of civilian infrastructure, as destruction that killed hundreds of civilians downstream from the breached dams, as a war crime dressed up as military necessity. The British perspective emphasizes the strategic targeting, the precision of the attack, the focus on industrial infrastructure rather than civilian population. Both perspectives contain truth, both simplify complex reality, both serve national narratives about the war. The bouncing bomb itself becomes museum piece, examples preserved at RAF museums and war memorial sites. Visitors marvel at the engineering, the ingenuity, the clever solution to impossible problem. Barnes Wallis's genius is celebrated, his contribution to victory acknowledged, his reputation secure. The bombs that killed young men become symbols of innovation, testament to British scientific achievement, proof that intelligence and creativity can overcome brute force. But stand in front of those museum displays, read the technical specifications, admire the engineering, and remember this: 53 young men died testing these weapons. 53 lives spent, 53 futures erased, 53 families shattered. The bombs worked brilliantly, accomplished their mission, proved their designer's genius. But they were purchased with blood, and that cost should be remembered as clearly as the achievement. The Dam Busters raid represents both the best and worst of modern warfare. Best: incredible bravery, innovative thinking, precise execution, clear strategic objective, spectacular tactical success. Worst: terrible casualties, strategic impact less than hoped, suffering inflicted on both sides, glory built on graves, victory measured in destroyed lives alongside destroyed infrastructure. This is the complete story, the full truth, the legend stripped of propaganda and examined honestly. Young men volunteered to fly impossible mission. Engineers designed revolutionary weapon. Crews trained obsessively for months. The attack succeeded brilliantly. Dams were breached. Germany was hurt. Britain celebrated. And 53 young men died, their names recorded on memorials, their sacrifice honored but their absence permanent, their potential unfulfilled, their lives spent purchasing strategic advantage in a war that would continue grinding forward for 2 more years regardless of dam status. Was it worth it? That question has no satisfying answer. Military strategists say yes, pointing to disrupted production and proven capability. Families of the dead say no or yes or don't know, struggling with grief and pride in equal measure. The survivors who flew the mission mostly refused to answer, acknowledging only that they did what was asked, followed orders, served their country, and survived when others didn't through luck rather than virtue. History remembers the Dam Busters fondly, heroically, admiringly. Books celebrate them. Films dramatize their story. Their achievement is undeniable, their courage unquestionable, their place in military history secure. But remember, always remember that heroic stories are built on real suffering, that military achievement costs human lives, that every medal represents someone who didn't come home. The dams were breached on May 17, 1943. Water flooded through the Ruhr and Eder valleys. Factories drowned. Bridges collapsed. Power stations went dark. And 53 young men died making it happen. Extraordinary mission. Brilliant success. Terrible price. All 3 statements are true simultaneously, and none can be understood properly without the others. This is the story of the Dam Busters. This is what they did, what they sacrificed, what they achieved, and what it cost. Remember it completely, honor it honestly, learn from it carefully. Because wars produce heroes, but heroes are just ordinary people placed in extraordinary circumstances, doing what seems necessary at the time, paying prices that seem acceptable until the bills come due in blood and grief and trauma that last generations. Guy Gibson led the raid. Barnes Wallis designed the weapon. 617 Squadron executed the mission. 53 men died. 2 dams fell. Germany was hurt. Britain celebrated. And the war continued, grinding forward, consuming more lives, creating more heroes, demanding more sacrifice until finally, exhaustedly, it ended and the survivors went home to build peace from the rubble. The story is over. The mission is complete. The dams stand rebuilt. The aircraft are preserved in museums. The weapons are historical curiosities. The survivors are dead. What remains is memory, history, the record of what happened when extraordinary men attempted extraordinary things and succeeded at terrible cost. Remember them. Honor them. Learn from them. And pray we never again ask young men to fly into darkness carrying experimental weapons to attack impossible targets knowing some won't return. The dam busters proved it could be done. But proof of possibility isn't argument for repetition. Some achievements, however spectacular, cost more than their worth. This is their story told completely, honestly, without propaganda or simplification. They flew. They fought. They succeeded. They died. They're remembered. And their sacrifice, their achievement, their story, it matters still 70 years later because courage and sacrifice and loss and victory, these things are eternal, repeated in every generation, demanding to be understood not as abstract concepts but as real experiences of real people who lived and died and left us their example. The flight of the dam busters. Operation Chastise. May 16 to 17, 1943. 19 aircraft attacked. 8 didn't return. 53 men died. 2 dams breached. Mission accomplished. Cost accepted. Story remembered. That's the truth. That's the history. That's what happened when genius met courage met sacrifice met war. Never forget it. Never romanticize it. Never ignore the cost while celebrating the achievement. Remember it whole, complete, honest. Because that's what they deserve, those young men who flew into darkness and didn't come home. They deserve truth, not propaganda. Memory, not mythology. Honor that acknowledges their sacrifice without pretending it was easy or clean or anything other than terrible and necessary and tragic and heroic all at once. The dams are rebuilt. The men are dead. The story survives. Tell it right.